Welcome from the holy city of Sfat, Israel. In a few days we're going to approach the holiday of Shavuot. Shavuos is the anniversary of the Jewish people receiving the Torah over 3,000 years ago. So what's it all about? There's a Gemara that explains that we were the three-part nation, which means we were comprised of Cohen, Levi, and Yisrael. And it was given the three-part Torah, which is comprised of the 5 books of Moses, the prophets, and the writings. And we're given the Torah in the 3rd month, which is the month of Sivan. And it was given through the third born. Moses was the third born from Miriam and Aaron. So there's this tremendous emphasis on 3. The Torah is a 3-part Torah, which is very strange, since we are the people who emanate oneness in the world and speak about monotheism. Why is the giving the Torah the most central component of our religion about 333? So the idea is that it's explained in Hasidus that 3 is really the most proper way to represent unity. Why? Because if you have just purely one, God is one and there's nothing else but Him, there leaves a second thought. There leaves a possibility that maybe there could be plurality. And the oneness could be challenged. So long as you only have one, you have your thesis, you always have the antithesis. There's a possibility that this thesis could be challenged. And therefore you need to create the synthesis. And the synthesis is the idea of 3. That once you'll have the positing of oneness, and it will be challenged, and there'll try to be the position has to be defended, because all of a sudden there's a plurality, there's creation, God is not one. There's also many, there's the world, or the worlds. So therefore we have to create oneness from within the standpoint of the worlds. That if the place of plurality will also agree that all there is one, then the concept of oneness is strengthened to the point that it can no longer be undone anymore, because it's already been challenged and defended. And therefore, this idea of synthesis is ultimately a higher form of unity than singularity itself. And so therefore, the 3-part Torah is there because it comes to make synthesis between Hashem's perfect singularity and the seeming plurality that the world imposes, thus giving the Torah to the world and synthesizing the would-be distinction and creating a oneness all over again. So this is kind of the philosophical idea behind it. But there's also a notion that why was this world, of all the places on earth, chosen to be the home of this synthesis? There's a story in the Gemara that the angels, in fact, the angels represent, not what you see in the movies, but some kind of angelic realms of divine consciousness that are beyond this world. And in these places, they also realized that Hashem was going to create synthesis out of His whole universe. And they demanded the Torah should be given to them. And Moses was called upon by Hashem to defend his position that no, in fact, he and this lowly world should receive the Torah. And the defense that he gave was, in fact, that we are the lowest world. His defense was not that we're more worthy, but in fact, in a certain sense, we're less worthy. That there's a need to give the Torah to a lower place, a place which is not angelic. So this goes into a discussion that we see in sort of human nature and history. As we got more sophisticated and we got more technologically savvy and we started to realize the vastness of the universe with telescopes and with microscopes, and we started to realize just how big this situation is, it created a psychological reaction on the part of humankind to feel worthless, to feel small, insignificant. If the universe is this big, then we are just a random molecule floating in infinite space, and we shouldn't take ourselves so seriously. In other words, we're like nothing. The truth of the matter is, the Jewish people never had this problem of suddenly feeling small, because we always knew how big the universe was. Maybe we didn't have the Hubble telescope showing us the galaxies and the solar systems and the vastness of space. But in the ancient Kabbalistic works, it already describes this concept of these angelic realms. These realms that are spiritual in nature, that everything in this earth has a counterpart in a spiritual dimension. And literally every single object, as it says in a poetic way, every blade of grass has an angel on top of it striking it and telling it to grow, which means there's a spiritual dimension corresponding to everything in this world. And what this differentiates it is that it's on a higher level of divine consciousness. It understands God that much more. And that spiritual dimension has a dimension beyond it. And beyond it, so the fact that there's this entire physical universe, there's also a spiritual universe which is grander in its vision and understanding, and a spiritual universe beyond that, and beyond that. How many are there? So the Kabbalah has taught us for centuries, millennia, there are infinite numbers of them. So our smallness and our insignificance has always been known, and yet our belief system is that despite the unbelievable vastness of the situation, one little mountain and one little people were chosen, one pushed off corner of the infinite universe was chosen by the infinite singular God, that would be the place that he's going to create his synthesis from. He's going to reinstate the unity of the entire cosmos from this little mountain. So the concept of the Jewish people being the chosen people is much more deep than people really understand. We're not just chosen amongst nations. We're chosen amongst the entire infinite array of angelic life force and all of the infinite universes for a particular task of refining and synthesizing the reality into the oneness and singularity of God. Big task. Why is it that we were chosen? How do we get so special? So the fact of the matter is, as we said before, it's not because we're so special, it's actually because we're so low. And the example for this, the analogy, is that if you want to lift up a building, there's something called a lever. And you stick the lever into the bottom of the building and you can pick up the whole building. If you stick the lever into the middle of the building, you leave some of the building unelevated. And so for Hashem to create the true synthesis and the true unity of all beings and show that there is only one, even in the midst of plurality, he had to find the state of most plurality, the state of most divisiveness, the state of most separateness and lowliness, and put the lever there. So our chosenness is in fact because we are on the bottom of the whole scenario. So what comes from all this information? What are we supposed to do with this information? We have a Torah. It's the device of creating singularity. And here's what you do. You could spend your life running around, living the life of a mere mortal. You could spend your life chasing after this pleasure, chasing after that honor, whatever. You could live a normal life. But the reality is, we have an unbelievable merit to take upon ourselves the actual task of the creator and director of the entire universe. And he gave us the Torah, and what the Torah really is like a conduit. It's a channel, it's a portal. And what it asks of us is to put our minds on certain ideas as opposed to others. To put our words into certain positions, certain combinations as opposed to others. To put our deeds into certain formations as opposed to others. It basically shapes us in a very particular way, according to a precise document illustrating 613 exact mitzvahs, commandments, which organizes the physical reality into a conduit to reveal the singularity of God. How is this done? It's completely beyond comprehension. If we wanted to comprehend it, we'd have to jump up into these mystical, angelic places. Our job is not to comprehend it. Our job is to fulfill it, comprehend it as much as possible. We can philosophize, we can discuss it, we can understand it, believe in it. But to enact it. And what it really is tantamount to doing is to making a home for God in this world. And in so doing, we'll make a home for God in this world. We pick up the entire building and we rejoin the entire universe into this singularity. And that's why our whole religion is centered literally around making a home for God. Making this portal where when you walk into the doors of the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, the central focus and the ultimate pinnacle point of our entire religion is we have a land and we have a city and we have a building in this city, and inside of this building, if you go in there, you're no longer yourself. You cease to exist and you become part of the singularity. The entire Torah and the entire religion is pointing in this direction of making this portal to bring Hashem's singularity into us and thereby through the entire universe. And the time where we have yet to be able to achieve the building of this temple, the third temple, we still are enjoined that each one of us is a miniature temple. That what the Torah and its commandments do is they build us and our bodies and our minds and our speech and our activities into a perfect dimension, that we become this portal. And just like on Mount Sinai over 3,000 years ago, God, His singularity, spoke into the dimension of plurality through the mouth of Moses and into the Jewish people. Any time that a Jew will take upon themselves this holy task and organize their thought, speech, and action into the proper channels, it's no longer them. It's the singularity of the one God that emanates through their pores. And this is what we're commemorating, or reliving, as it were, this holy holiday of Shavuos. And I want to enjoin us all that the time is ripe to once again receive the Torah, to once again receive this holy mission for our sake and for the sake of the entire universe. It should be a Kabbalah Satorah B'Simcha Panimius. We should all receive the Torah with joy and with inward devotion and discipline and dedication. Good Yom Tov.